Buongiorno and welcome back to 15 with Fosca, the podcast. My guest today is Italo-Argentinian author Andrea Zurlo. Buongiorno, Andrea.
Buongiorno. Thank you.
I'm so happy to have you here because I'll tell a little story about how we met, which is something I always do with my guests. So you and I only met about a year ago. Almost exactly a year ago.
Yes.
Right?
Yes,
is that right?
Yes.
And I attended a workshop organized by the Florentine Literary Society, of which you are a founding member. And we just kept seeing each other at these events. And then at a certain point, I don't even know how.
I think that I came to you and I made the question that's just like, how are you doing this? How are you doing that? So, and then
we started.
We started.
And I think it's important to underscore, because it's something I talked about in the introduction to this new season of the podcast, that something for me sort of magical happened when I started spending time with more writers like you. And I credit the fact that I actually finished the manuscript, that I'm working on a bunch of other creative projects with the fact that I intentionally exposed myself to more writers. And so I'm grateful to you for coming on the podcast. I'm really happy that we met, and I'm happy that we have become friends and collaborators. So I mentioned in the very brief intro that you are originally from Argentina.
Yes.
And of course, like many, many people in Argentina, you have Italian origins. So I thought the best way to start our chat today would be to ask you a little about your journey to Italy from Argentina.
Oh, well, let's say that I always been very curious of the world. And just thinking, okay, when I be older, when I grow up, I'm going to travel. I'm going to go away. I was born in a country where there was a dictatorship.
Yeah.
So, and I realized that my life was not the same as other people's life outside of Argentina. Then the democracy arrives in the 80s, and then I realized that I was very disappointed with my country, because after a long dictatorship, after all the things that happened, people don't have this idea of community to protect the country, to protect that democracy. So I was disappointed, and I said to myself, okay, it's time for you to move on. So I fly away from Argentina.
When was that, Andrea?
I was in the 90s, beginning of the 90s. And I was for almost a year in Spain. That was the first place in Europe because of the language too. And then to Italy. And when I was in Italy, after some months, I returned to Spain, but no, I missed Italy. So I came back to Italy. Yes, it was just like, okay, I know I cannot go on living here. It was, I don't feel comfortable in Argentina anymore. So that's why I decided to migrate.
And so you're a writer, you're a translator, you do a number of things. And I'm curious about how that played out when you first got to Italy. What did you do when you first got here? Were you mostly translating, or were you already writing?
No, at the beginning, I just looked for a job. So,
which is always an adventure.
Yes.
Yeah, here.
So I worked for 4 years at in the commercial department of a company, in exports department, for knowing languages, English, Spanish. It was easier. I had this chance of working in this company, and I followed different markets, from the Latin American, Spain markets, and then to all the English markets, and it was a good experience. Then, after that, I decided to to go on with my profession because I am a professional translator. I have studied that. So it was a very good time because the European Union was, let's say, was asking companies to write their all the material in the languages of the Union. So it was a very good chance. And in fact, I worked for almost 30 years in my profession.
So I want to stop and talk about your translating work just for a second.
Yes.
Because you have a Substack that I adore. I follow it very closely. I think it's really excellent. It has great insights. I find a lot of value in what you write. And there were two recent posts that I wanted you to talk a little bit about. One is on translation and obviously on AI, which is pretty much like the topic of the day, anything related to AI really. But also you talked about your experience as a second generation returning to Italy, a second generation Italian returning to Italy. So I was hoping you might talk a little more about the first one, and then maybe we could also talk about the second one.
Okay, first the translation. So, I think that AI should be intended like a tool used by professionals. Instead, due to the usual economical reasons, it's replacing translators.
Yeah.
And the problem with this is we're losing a wealth of knowledge. Many translators with a very, very long professional life, I'm talking about people that have been translating for the last 30, 25 years, are giving up the profession. And this is a great damage.
Yeah.
It's a great damage also for language. Languages are, are suffering a lot with this because an algorithm works on a pattern, on a pattern of words, sentences. That's all.
Yeah.
It doesn't have a cultural approach to language. And a cultural approach to language is essential when you translate. Even if you translate marketing, but even if you translate a technical manual. Because, for instance, in Spanish, what I say in Spanish, like, I don't know, a certain mechanical piece in Spain is not called the same way in Latin America.
Yeah.
A computer in Spain is an ordenador, while in Latin America is computador, computadora, calculadora. These have different names according to the country.
Yeah.
And this, we are really damaging language. We have a great problem with people having less words when they speak.
Yeah.
In the academies in Latin America say that people are using 250 words in their vocabulary.
That's nothing.
Okay, that's nothing. You consider that the Spanish dictionary has more than 110,000 words. So if you have less words, you have less possibility of thinking, reflecting, elaborating,
communicating,
and also of reflecting about your own life because you don't have the means. Language is a means of communication. The first thing that we learn when we are babies, it's language.
Yeah.
We learn to say, mama, papa, that is, that's the way in which humanity, let's say, developed together with language.
Yeah.
So we cannot destroy this. And we are destroying it.
Mm-hmm.
I always say that translation is the second oldest profession
In the world.
in the
It's
in the
true.
world. You go to the Babel Tower. So okay, there was a translator there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we are destroying really, really a wealth of knowledge, and people are not aware of this.
Yeah. And I think it's, people talk about the advent of AI and they don't realize
Yes.
it's too
No.
late. It's not too, I don't want to, be dramatic, but there's no advent anymore.
No.
It is very much upon us. And I remember I sent you an article recently about the new, iPods that basically do real-time translation. And, the article rightfully points out the fact that it doesn't, though, explain cultural nuances or customs or taboos or what have you. And I think that is important to bear in mind when we talk about translation work. I've read many, many books that, have been translated by human beings, and those cultural nuances are fundamental. And we're losing all those the keys to the culture. It's not just a question of words, although that's there too, because then we could talk about brain rot, et cetera. But it really is that kind of deep cultural understanding that comes from someone like you who has been living among at least two cultures and languages for so many years, who is then able to not only give you the right word, but also give you the true significance behind the whole thing, whether that's a technical manual or, a novel. And we're slipping into this very dangerous place where, as human beings, where we're looking for shortcuts.
Yes.
And I don't know about you, but something I repeat to my daughter all the time, and I guess it's because it was repeated to me, but there really are no shortcuts.
No, not at all.
And eventually you pay the price, because
of course
there are so many bad translations out there now, right?
Yes, it's full. It's full. You cannot, for instance, there was a time when you can search on internet.
Yeah.
Now, no, you can't, because translations are really very bad. And yes, there's no, the nuances of culture, of languages, everything. When they ask me, oh, well, can you translate this for I don't know, for Cuba or for Mexico or for, okay, yes, but you have to, it's not automatic, because you have to go into that particular language, that particular usage of language. It's also, translation is a very complex thing.
Yeah.
You study to be a translator.
Yeah.
You study a lot.
A lot. But also I think about literary translations, and then I'll move on to the second part of the question regarding your Substack. But, literary translations are really, really require a human being.
Yes.
Because it's not just about translating the words. Often it's about making concepts understandable in another language, which is not something that I think can be replaced by AI, although I know it's being done. But, I think about all the beauty of the fact that so many books are accessible to us because of the hard work that translators do.
Of course.
But how much of those are works of great, it's great labor involved, but also a kind of wealth of knowledge that a translator brings, a human being brings to that literary work, for example, or a film or what have you.
Yes. Think about subtitles.
Yeah, subtitles.
It's so difficult. So difficult. And, you cannot choose the subtitling of AI. AI subtitling is really something that has no reason.
Yeah.
Because you cannot. And then when they also use AI for the voices.
Oh, I hate that. I can't stand that. I don't like it at all. It's very hard for me to listen to. Yeah. And I listen to some podcasts, or they're really transcriptions, I guess, of articles.
Yes.
And they always have that, that voice. And I can't listen. I can't listen beyond 1 minute. It just feels too sterile to me, and I can't get into the story.
Museums are using this to describe works of art, and they are using it everywhere. But the result is really, really very bad.
Yeah, and it's flat, and it's obviously not human. So we need to be continuing the work that we're doing, and accept the fact that AI is upon us, but show our resistance and keep showing how important it is to keep human beings very much in the process. So I want to just shift a little, because we're talking about your Substack, and we'll tell everybody in the show notes where they can find you. But I was really touched by the recent post that you had about your experience, as I said, about as a second generation Italian coming to Italy. You and I talk a lot about our experiences, which are similar. I also came for the first time in the early 90s and then moved here definitively in the late 90s. But, there's been an advent here, an increase of, recent, let's say, transferees to Italy. And there isn't always a real deep understanding of the culture and the people. And you and I kind of had to really how can I say this nicely? We paid our dues.
Yes.
But I found that post so relatable, obviously for me personally, but also I found it to be a really insightful one. And I want you to tell our listeners just a little more about what you wrote about in that, what it was like for you. Italy was a very different place in the 90s.
Yes, it was quite different, and the world was quite different.
Yeah, it was.
Because there was no Google Maps,
no,
there was no WhatsApp, there was no way of communicating with your family. So just a phone call every
once a month
because it was very expensive.
Yeah.
So but there was this human connection. I know that my family lives in a small town in Veneto. So I go to another city there near that small town and decided to take the bus and go to visit my aunts and to find out where they were.
Yeah.
But at the bus station, I met a woman. And so I have no phone to look at, so I have a woman to talk to.
Yeah.
So we began speaking. So, where are you from? And I, at that time, my Italian was not very good. I have studied it on my own. So
from a book.
Yes. So I was not so fluent. And yes, I explained her that I was coming. I was looking for my family. I know them. I know where they live. So she came with me, took me to my aunt's house.
Amazing.
And introduced me to my aunt. So it was my grandaunt. It was, yes. Yeah. But it was like this. It was very, very, very... I had this memory of this woman because she was very sweet.
Yeah.
And from that moment on, my family in some way adopt me. Okay, I began my story here, but it was there was no one to tell me where do you have to go and live. What is better for you here and no, you have to do things on your own. That helps to integrate into the society.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a friend to talk to on WhatsApp, sending messages and telling, I'm having this problem. And I see that now people coming here, they go on living as they lived before, when they were in their countries. But they're constantly in contact with their families, with their friends, with that other reality. And they know nothing about Italian reality. Mm-hmm. They don't live here. It's incredible, but they don't live here. So I think that, yes, you're talking about the people coming now, but they live in their communities and they have an idea of what Italy is.
Mm.
That idea of, oh, Italy, a glass of red wine.
Yeah.
That's not Italy. Italy is not spaghetti and pizza.
No.
And so, yes, of coming here was really, life-changing, of course. But, it was so different from what it is now. And I love the way I did it.
I do too. And I remember not loving it at the time. I mean, you got married here too, right? To an Italian?
No.
Or no, you got married there?
Yes.
Getting married here was probably the first, even just coming here legally was the first big thing, going to the Italian consulate in New York and crying, and then, going to the questura here and, navigating that all on my own, getting a job, having a career. But I'll never forget, getting the papers in order to get married. And, going into this Kafka-esque office, right, where there was nothing, right? There were just labyrinthian halls. And then I got to, I was there with my, my ex-husband, who was, my fiance then or whatever. And, going through these long corridors and then finally finding this guy who had to stamp, I guess it was like a null'osta or something.
Yes.
And someday I'll write a short story about it. And he was just sitting at a desk and he had all these stamps on the desk. His sole purpose was just to stamp this one piece of paper, which was like, so, important. But I think for me personally, surviving that, like being able to do everything that I was then able to do is kind of huge now when I think about it, and I was young. You were young too.
Yes.
I was in my 20s and, there weren't any resources out there. I think there were maybe one or two books that people had written about, surviving or getting, living in Italy.
Yes, I had my family, so it was easier because I was adopted by them.
Right. So they could guide you. But even Italians, I mean, the bureaucracy is here and it's not going anywhere. I mean, AI could maybe lend a hand there. But in other words, Italians are so used to bureaucracy, but that doesn't mean that they're like able to help you. I mean, they might be able to, but they can navigate a little better because they understand. Again, we go back to cultural nuances, but you need to, I remember all those offices, going to all those places, you kind of learn how to you have to kiss up to people. You have to ask them how they're doing. You have to show courtesy and kindness, always be respectful, even when it's like, oh, okay, I'm still missing a piece of paper or a photo or a stamp or a signature. But it teaches you, I think at least in me, it built up this kind of, I don't know, I guess this scrappiness that I didn't even know I had, and now looking back on all the things I've done, I'm like, oh, I could probably, in fact, when I go back to the States, I'm like, everything's so easy here. I always allot 2 hours to do something that then takes me 10 minutes.
No, you have to understand that I came from a country that is underdeveloped.
Exactly. So it was a little, for you, it was a little
developed.
different. Yeah. It was a little different.
It was a bit, yes. And I have the Italian citizenship, so it was easier.
Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, that's an ongoing saga for me. But anyway, I want to shift gears a little, but still related to our conversation so far about cultural nuances, et cetera. You finished a new novel.
Yes.
And it's actually the first time that you're writing a book directly in English, which I find fascinating because I don't know that I guess I could write a book in Italian, but it wouldn't feel natural to me. So I want you to share with us what the process has been like. And if you're willing, I'd also like a little teaser about the new book. I mean, I've read a little piece of it, but I thought maybe you could share with us a little bit about what writing in English has been like and also tell us more about this new novel you've written.
Writing in English is, I began learning English when I was 5 years old. So I go to school and have this learning in English and in Spanish. So it's somewhat, I get very used to sounds and everything in English. And then I studied at the university too. So, I studied English literature from Beowulf, the poems, the beginning of English literature. I read Shakespeare in Elizabethan English. So let's say that I have a kind of, I learned a lot of
It's a good
English.
foundation.
Yes.
It's a good foundation.
But I have wrote in the past, let's say, essays, articles, but not a whole novel. So when I told the story, I was thinking about to Laurie Hetherington, that is our friend. She told, "Oh no, you should write this in English. I know you are able." I say, "Okay, let's try." And it's, I felt that it was, yes, that story was born to be written in English, and it was very. It feels natural, but I sent the first chapters to a friend in Spain, that she is the one who helped me edit my novels in Spanish, and she told me, "Oh well, it's you, but it's not you. It's very different from when you write in Spanish."
Yeah.
And I say, yes, probably yes, because it changed the way in which you think language.
Mm-hmm.
You sit there. Okay, I was 2 minutes before I was speaking in Italian with my kids, or in Spanish, and then okay, all of a sudden I think and write in English. I love it. I love this journey. I love the experience of writing in English. It feels really good. And even my post now that I write in English for Substack, it takes me more time.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, the first draft, then the second, then the third draft. So it takes more time
Obviously,
yes, because it's not my language.
Right.
But it feels good. And I think that more that I write in English, okay, better my English is getting.
Yeah.
It's like more you speak, better it is. So, yes, it's really, I think that it's nice. It's a nice experience. It feels so different.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit about the book, can you?
And
a little teaser.
And the book, I say that the book is about immortality. Okay. It's about a woman, when she's killed for the first time, she realizes she's immortal. And she has to cope with the fact of being immortal in this world, and to understand how to hide herself in some way. Hide this fact of being immortal, and try to go on. And she lives the most important events of the 20th and 21st century and far beyond. I think that this quest for immortality, all the questions that arises when you think of immortality, are the thing that I love more in this book.
Yeah.
The fact of, okay, I am immortal, but what about all the other people? Okay, you go on losing people, adapting to an ever-changing world, adapting to a society that goes on changing, technologies. She was born in the 19th century, and then she had to afford all these changes, all this being always. She's always alone.
Yeah.
Because everybody she loves disappeared from her life. And so the question is, what is the meaning of life? What we are here for? And now these are all the questions that I asked myself when I was writing this book. So you have, it's a speculative fiction with a bit of magic realism, with a bit of historical fiction, but they are useful to write, to explain all these thoughts that I have when writing this book. Yes, I think that you can. It's possible to read it in different, levels. You can read it in okay, it's a fun speculative fiction book, or it's something deeper.
I mean, I think it does raise a lot of questions. I've only read the first chapter. I've read 2 versions of the first chapter.
Yes.
And expressed my preference. But I was hooked because, and for example, I don't like historical fiction. We talked about that. It's not like I don't like it. That sounds kind of snobby of me, but it's not a genre that I tend to turn to. But I was intrigued by the premise of the story. I loved the voice, and I wanted to comment on that because I think your writing in English is excellent, like the voice, but I can tell how can I say this? It is different from your voice when you write in Italian or in Spanish, which I don't read, unfortunately. But I feel like I could feel how much the character and the characters were within you, and it felt like a very natural read. It felt like a very real, surreal, but real voice. And I want to read the rest of it. I can't wait to read the rest of it.